Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video, and today I wanted to do my February wrap up. I did not read a whole lot in February, so yeah. So let's get into some statistics before I get into the books. I read a total of 6 books a month, so a lot less than last month, but it is because I've been working on The Stand all month and I didn't even finish that, and I usually have half and half when it comes to my audios. So yeah, I didn't listen to a lot of audio outside of that hour every day, so that definitely shows on my total number of books read in the month. Hopefully that will be a lot better in March. Of those 6 books, I read 1,752 pages, which equals to about 292 pages per book. I read one book that was between 100 and 199 pages. I read one book that was between 200 and 299 pages, and then I read 4 books that were between 300 and 399 pages. 5 of them were published between 2010 and 2017, and the last and final one was published in 2018, so no really old books on this wrap up. In terms of star rating, my month was not the best. I only read 2 books that were 4 stars, then I read 1 book that was 3.5 stars, then I read 2 3-star books, and then I read 1 2.5-star books, and I also DNF'd the book. I forgot to mention that before. So that probably would also have had a pretty negative rating when it came to it. In terms of genres, I read 1 science fiction book, 1 thriller book, 1 horror book, 1 fantasy book, and 2 contemporaries. So a bit of a mix. And in terms of formatting, 1 of them was a graphic novel, 2 of them were trade paperbacks, and 3 of them were hardcovers. And in terms of where I got them, 2 of them were from Book Depository, 2 of them I purchased from Amazon, 1 of them was from a Danish bookstore called Bog og Idé. Fourth and final place that I got one from was from the library, so that's the only one that was free this month. And in terms of gender, author gender, it's not as equal divided as it was last month, but 4 of the books that I read were from female authors and 2 of them were from male authors. Now let's get into the book. First I'm going to talk about the books that I actually DNF'd this month. I decided to DNF Another Little Piece by Kate Carriers-Quinn, which is a thriller, sort of with a paranormal twist. And I was at 86 pages into it when I decided that I didn't really connect with the story at all at this point. And I had just been reading so many mediocre books all over this month, so I decided that reading this would be a waste of my time, and I do not want to read 1 or 2 or 3-star books. I'd rather be reading all pretty good books. So I decided when I feel like it's going to be a 2-star books from the beginning, I don't want to waste my time. So this was a DNF for me. It was part of my TBR unwrappings for round 2, but I decided to DNF it. The most disappointing read of the month was sadly Artemis by Andy Weir for me. This was my most anticipated book for last year, even though I went into it with lowered expectation when it came to my comparison to The Martian. I was just super disappointed with the execution of this book. I didn't really connect with the main character especially. She was grating on my nerves a lot, and I did think that her father was an interesting character, and I also did like Dale, who was one of the side characters in this. Those were the positive things about it. There was also, after more or less every chapter, there was a email exchanging between the main character and a guy that lived on Earth in, I think, Afghanistan or something. I don't remember. I don't really know what he wanted to do with those by the end of it. I know I also told Riley when we were buddy reading this that I felt it was a little... I didn't really find them super necessary in the story. Especially, even though I felt like it was because they wanted to see that they had connections, that they talked to... She had a friend outside of the moon and stuff. And I guess that's fine. But I don't think it's necessary if it doesn't have a purpose by the end, and I didn't feel like it did. overall. And every time I felt a little bit I was pulled out from the actual story whenever we were told these email snippets, and for me it didn't do anything. It might have worked for someone else, for somebody else. Yeah, but a 2.5 star for this book. Another book that disappointed me a little bit is Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna Maguire, the third book in the Wayward Children series. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know how much I loved the second book in this series. I adored that book. It was so perfectly executed. But for this one, I just didn't feel the same connection to it. I felt like the plot was a little jaggering. I don't know what to call it. This took me almost a week to read, and it's this short. So I feel like that says a little bit about how I endured the plot. I didn't feel the plot was really engaging, and the only thing I was really happy about was seeing Christopher and some of the characters who we meet in the first book. And in the beginning I really liked the main character, but then there were some things he said towards the middle and towards the end that made me a little annoyed. Yeah, but I've sort of become excited about the next coming books in the series, because they're probably going to be focusing on some other interesting places. I also think maybe it'll be easier for me to love the logical thinking worlds, because I think they fit me better as a person. So maybe that's why I also didn't connect too much with this story. But yeah, a 3-star rating for this one for me. So I moved again because the sun was directly in my face and I felt like it looked really annoying. Another book that I read in February was Through the Woods by Emily Carroll, which is a graphic novel in the horror thriller genre. It's inspired by the Red Riding Hood and what's going on in the woods after dark and stuff, that you shouldn't go into the woods on your own and all of that. And while some of the stories were creepy and the artwork was amazing, some of the stories just were a little, I don't know, too unrealistic. I mean, it's difficult to explain, but actually all of the horror novels and horror stories that I find the most scary are those that are not super in your face scary and bloody and gory. It's more those undertones of scary eeriness that I find creepy, and also situations that could happen in real life, like sort of in real life, when the characters are realistic and evil in a realistic way. But this one, there was just at least one of them that I didn't find scary at all, even though it was probably supposed to be, and it was like one of the longer stories in it. But I'll show you some of the artwork. It doesn't have a lot of text, so it reads really, really fast. As you can see, there's no actual text bubbles. It's just like lots of graphics and then a little bit of text to complement them. And the setup was really amazing, but I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars overall, because of the graphic novels that I've read, this has been the most disappointing for me so far. The next book that I'm going to talk about today is The Hanging Girl by Eileen Cook. This is a book that I read for the Thriller-a-thon, so I'll have a link to my Thriller-a-thon vlog up above if you haven't watched it. But I have really enjoyed some of Eileen Cook's books before. I've read With Malice and I read The Unraveling Isabel, and both of those were really executed very well, and I liked the unreliable narrative that was in With Malice, and also a little bit in Unraveling Isabel. But I loved those two books. They were executed really well, and I was hooked to the story from the beginning to the end, and I read it in almost one sitting, both of those books, and I gave them both 4 stars. This one, however, it follows this girl called Skye Thorne whose mother is claiming to be a psychic and doing tarot card readings, and so she's also been telling people that she's psychic and she can do tarot card readings and sort of taking a little bit of money for reading cards for them. But then she decides to join in on a secret thing with someone. We don't really know who she is, and with because of that, she's involving herself in an investigation, telling them about visions that she's seen and all of that over the book. And things definitely change over time. There are some different plot twists over the book. I forgot to tab it while I was reading it, but there were a couple of plot twists that I didn't see coming, and that's something that I always find pretty interesting. But overall, I wasn't as connected to the characters and to the story overall, so I ended up giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I still really enjoyed it, and I will definitely also check out more from Aileen Cook in the future. But I highly suggest reading With Malice or Unraveling Isobel before you get to this one. The next 2 books are my favorites of the month. I can't really distinguish between them, but first off I'm gonna talk about Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. This is a contemporary book and I read it for Contemporary-thon, so I'll leave a link to that wrap up and blog up above so you can check it out if you want to know my thoughts as I read it during that time. But this follows this guy called Lincoln who is working in this office as an IT security thing. It's set back in the 90s, so they haven't really, I think it's 99 actually, so they haven't really had internet and computer and emailing and stuff for a very long time, and the companies don't like people to be talking about private stuff in their emails and sort of that exchange that they have between themselves. But so his job is to filter through, there's some bit trigger words that will put all of the emails in a filter that doesn't really meet the requirements of work-related stuff. And so he has to read through and contact the people in charge if there's something that needs to be changed, if people are misusing the equipment or something like that. And then what happens is that he starts reading emails exchanges between these 2 girls who are working at the office, and yeah, and then you see things from both Beth and Jennifer, who are the people that he's reading those emails from, and you find out a lot about Lincoln as he's living with his mother and his friendships he has outside of the work and also at the work, where he starts developing some friendship with some co-workers. And I really enjoyed the story overall. It was really fun to read it, and I didn't find it too insta-lovey, even though he sort of fell in love with one of the girls who were writing those emails. It felt okay that it was written in the way that it was. And I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, so I definitely enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed Fangirl when I read it, so that is a plus for this one. The last and final book that I read this month was A Man Called Ove, or En mand der hedder Ove, which will be, let's see the cover here, by Fredrik Backman. This is my first book that I read from my Scandinavian lit project that I want to explore some more of, some Scandinavian authors. And this follows this guy called Ove who is in his mid-50s, and he's a bit of a bitter man because first of all he lost his wife a couple of months ago, his life companion and all of that, and he also just recently lost his job, so he's jobless. He doesn't feel like he has any sort of purpose in life. He's really bitter about that, and he doesn't like the thought of ever becoming dependent on other people in order to go through life. So he has been planning to find a way of committing suicide. But things keep going wrong, and then there's this new family that moves in next door with Pavena, I think that's her name, who's an Arabian woman who's pregnant, and she's married to this Swedish guy. I forgot his name. But they definitely put some color into his life and keeps interrupting him when he's trying to sort of go through with his plan of ending things. The humor was really, really great, I think. I feel like it connected really well with me, I think, considering that this humor seems very Scandinavian, sort of the way that, yeah, us Danes, we also think of things, and yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed getting to know Ove as the time went along, and I really enjoyed getting to know Pavena and her family. It was a lot of fun, and I definitely will be checking out more by Fredrik Backman in the future, but I was not blown away by the book, but I really enjoyed it, and the audio was really, really good. I listened to the Danish audio, and that was executed really, really well. He captured the humor really well, and made me think sometimes of my dad when he's disagreeing with things, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So these are the books that I have worked on this month and finished, the majority of them, with the exception of my DNF. But yeah, not the best month, but I did get 5 books off my physical TBR. Actually, I got 6 books off and 1 book of my library TBR. So all in all, a good month, and hopefully March will be even better. Let me know in the comments down below which books you read in February. Have you read any of the books that I have been reading, and what did you think of them? I'm pretty sure that some people disagree with me on some of the ratings, but let me know what you thought of the books if you read them. Yeah, this is all I had for you today. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye!